welcome to South Carolina. Our next speaker, who has spent his career fighting for the needs of students and teachers from Connecticut to Washington, D.C. The Hatch Act prevents me from telling you his actual title, but I think we all know who he is, so I won't belabor. But I'm so excited to welcome and introduce to you all the Honorable Dr. Miguel Cardona to South Carolina this morning. As a public school teacher from Meridian, Connecticut, Dr. Cardona's focus throughout his career has been raising the bar of equity and excellence in education for all learners. And we're really excited to have him join us at this 99 days out mark from our historic First in the Nation primary as Biden-Harris 2024 surrogate. He knows as much as any of us here how important it is to re-elect President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris next November. Now, please join me in giving a warm South Carolina welcome to Dr. Miguel Cardona.
Thank you. Thank you. So glad to be here. I was sitting in the back during the panel discussion and just listening intently. I gotta tell you, my blood pressure was going up. I wanted to get up here. Let's give our panelists a round of applause. They did an amazing job. It is great to be with all of you here today. The energy in the room is palpable, and it's exactly the energy we need to earn President Biden and Vice President Harris a second term. Thank you. I want to start by thanking Chairwoman Cristel Spain for her gracious introduction and for her outstanding leadership of South Carolina Democrats. It's a big task. I'm glad you're doing it. As we all know, the Palmetto State is a pivotal state as the host of our party's First in the Nation primary next year. That you're leading the pack in our nominating process is a testament to your political power. Now, a state that better reflects the diversity of our country will have the first word. Thank you for all the work you're doing on that front, serving as a strong first step on the path to renominating and eventually re-electing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. As mentioned, my name is Miguel Cardona, and I'm deeply proud and honored to serve on the Team Biden-Harris 2024. When the president talks about the fight for racial equity and justice, or his efforts to expand access to college for young people from low-income households, for me, that work is deeply personal. I was born and raised in Meriden, Connecticut, the son of working-class Puerto Rican parents who raised me and my siblings in public housing. Growing up, I learned Spanish first. I didn't learn English until I got to school, to kindergarten. So I like to remind folks that everything I say tonight, every single word, is thanks to the value of public education. Education for me is where it all started. Everything I've accomplished, from serving my community as a fourth grade teacher, a decade as a school principal, an assistant superintendent, and then finally the first Latino commissioner of education in Connecticut's history. Everything I've done has been firmly rooted in America's public education system and the opportunities that it has afforded me. Indeed, only in America could someone who grew up speaking more Spanish at home than English, someone who learned the national language in public school, later can go on to advocate for public schools at the highest levels of government. I'm so proud we have a president who values my life experiences and sees it as an asset, not a deficit. One that seeks to offer that same ladder of opportunity, the same chance at the American dream to everyone in this country. From Meriden to Scranton, Charleston to Greenville, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are fighting hard. They're fighting hard for that mom struggling to pay rent each month, which is why they focus on early childhood education and childcare. They're fighting for the dad missing work to care for his sick child. That's why we proudly fight for union jobs with benefits benefits like sick leave. They're fighting for the parents awake at night at the kitchen table, figuring out how to make ends meet. Their focus has been the middle class, not tax breaks for the rich. Everything that they do is trying to build up the middle class. We're fighting for every student so they can reach their full potential and enjoy a more prosperous future. And we're fighting to make sure that everyone in our country gets a fair shot, no matter who you are, where you are, or how much money you make. I'm intentional and unapologetic about saying that every child deserves a classroom and a learning environment in a community where they can be themselves. All means all. When President Biden took office, our nation was facing a deadly pandemic and a devastating recession. We were hurting, and we looked to the president and vice president for hope and a path forward. And over the last 4 years, or last 2.5 years, they've delivered. From those dark depths, they reinvigorated the economy. Nearly 14 million jobs created since we took office, and more people working today than at any other point in our country's history. With unprecedented vigor and speed, they delivered on the administration's promise to rapidly deploy the COVID vaccine. President Biden promised 100 million shots given in his first 100 days, and he delivered 200 million instead, ensuring that parents could get back to work and students could get back to school. The schools were, 46% of the schools were open full time when the president took office. Within 8 to 9 months, he had them at over 97%. President Biden, Vice President Harris amassed a formidable record of legislative achievement, fixing roads and bridges, taking bold climate actions, keeping communities safe from gun violence, enshrining marriage equality into law, just to name a few. Put the last 2.5 years record against any other administration. This administration is about substance, not sensationalism. We heard about infrastructure for how many decades? For how many decades did we hear about rebuilding our country's infrastructure? Got it done. We saw, you remember those images on TV where you know, the shipping barges were stuck. We had supply chain issues. Remember that? Because we were microchips. We were other countries that were shut down because of the pandemic. We were waiting for them to do it so that we could build cars here. No more. We're going to make it in America now. The CHIPS and Science Act, that's going to make sure that we have millions of high-skill, high-paying jobs. So the infrastructure got done. CHIPS and Science Act, the PACT Act for our veterans. You know, the climate provisions under the Inflation Reduction Act. We put our record against any other administration. You can start to feel the impact here in your state. Just this week, President Biden spotlighted South Carolina as one of 31 tech hubs, a move that'll catalyze investment in new technologies and it'll drive job creation here in South Carolina. Yeah, it's going to make South Carolina eligible for over $50 million in grants. The administration also recently committed $22 million to the railroad corner redevelopment in Orangeburg, enhancing accessibility and driving investments in the area. I remember visiting Orangeburg with Congressman Clyburn and the vice president. And with our bipartisan infrastructure law, the president made the largest investment in clean drinking water in American history with $180 million for ensuring clean water is available for more South Carolinians. Look, we're committed. The administration is committed to ensuring that students don't have to worry about drinking water out of lead pipes. That's going to be a thing in the past with this administration. We've heard about it before. It's actually getting done now. Okay, that's one thing that we've normalized, and we're done with that. No more lead pipes. Our kids shouldn't be drinking from lead pipes. Make no mistake, the Biden administration has done all of this in the face of extraordinary and unrelenting opposition from MAGA extremists. The next election will be a simple choice. We have President Biden, who's rebuilding the economy from the bottom up and the middle out. He hasn't just talked about it. He's done the work of creating jobs, of lowering costs, of investing in communities and ensuring workers get the dignity and respect they deserve, kind of like the teachers that we heard about a little while ago. And while there's so much more to be done, we know he's up for the task because he's delivered for America's middle class time and time again. The other option, we have Republicans whose reckless disregard for middle-class families would send our costs skyrocketing, gut Social Security and Medicare, and turn back the clock on hard-won freedoms. This proposal, their proposals call for cuts to the middle class and tax breaks for millionaires. If there's not enough, they're challenging the principles of democracy also. We know what that looks like. We know how much is at stake and how much we can lose when they use our institutions to further their interest and agenda. Indeed, the most extreme factions are open to trying to undermine the right to vote. And as we've seen in the past, they seek to threaten democracy itself. We can't let that happen. We can't let that happen. So we face a moment of urgency for the great American project. It's a project my parents dreamed being a part of. A project that many generations of Americans, newcomers, and those whose roots go back to our founding alike, they've fought for. I'm not giving up the fight. And I know you aren't either. In fact, as a citizen watching the impact of the administration made up of deeply committed, compassionate public servants can have on everything from civil rights to health, education, and beyond, I've never felt more invigorated. I came from a family of hard workers, people that sacrificed so much so that I could live out the American dream. You know, and as a father and as a proud American, now it's my turn to fight so that my children and their children have a country they could be proud of. Together, we have the responsibility to maintain a level of urgency and remember what's at stake. For me, standing when I attended the inauguration, standing on the street corners and seeing military vehicles protecting the Capitol on the day of the inauguration, that's all I needed to see to say, I can't let my kids grow up in an environment where in the United States of America, we need the military to control the Capitol. We're better than that. We have other countries watching us. We cannot be the laughingstock for other countries to see the democratic principles that we've fought so hard to protect go down. There's a level of urgency here that I want to share with you. It's not going to be easy, but nothing worth fighting for ever is. And I know that folks from South Carolina don't balk at a fight. They don't stand down. Remember, in 2020, after the cynics and pundits wrote Joe Biden's political obituary, it was you who stepped up. It was you who stepped up. It was you who stepped up, you proved them wrong, and you launched the president to the Democratic nomination and then to the White House. And as I said before, substance over sensationalism. What was done over the last couple of years, that track record, is what we're fighting to continue. So President Biden and Kamala Harris, they need your help again. The time is now. I'm all in. There's so much at stake. Are you in? Together, let's lead the efforts to follow President's advice and spread the faith. Because the future of our economy, of our democracy, the future of our children and their children are all on the line. We've made tremendous progress, and now it's time to finish the job. And that's what President Biden and Vice President Harris will continue to fight for when we send them back to the White House for another 4 years. Look, I'll say this, you know, I'm pretty blessed that I'm a father, I'm a husband of an educator. I have a senior in high school, my son's in college. And I'm able to live the life I live because generations before me, my grandparents sacrificed a lot because they believed in the American dream. They believed the potential that lies here. Well, that's at stake for the next generation if we don't get it right. And while I'm not a sugarcane farmer like my grandfather, I need to show the same heart, the same commitment that he showed, the same sacrifice that he showed to go from the Paradise Island of Puerto Rico to the project in Connecticut, because he knew it's going to benefit the next generation. Now it's my turn. Now it's your turn. We may be doing better than the generations before us, but we're at a pivotal moment where the next generations could have it worse if we don't step up. So let's step up together. Thank you.